Breaking news. It has come to the attention of THF News that extremely small Poppy Playtime YouTuber Thomas the Horror Fan loves the third chapter of the game, and not only that, but he thinks CatNap was the best part of the game. In other news, Pianosaurus had just been discovered to be a dinosaur. Yeah, so even with how much I glazed Lily Lovebraid's Huggy Wuggy and the prototype in the Chapter 5 review, I still have CatNap as my favorite character in the entire game. The only other character in this series that has left the impact CatNap has is Huggy Wuggy, and even then he's only in third place of my overall ranking. So how did he become my favorite character in the entire game? Well, it really comes down to three things. He's the scariest, he has a really dark story compared to a lot of other characters, and he's just the fucking coolest thing ever. Let's get right into it. His voice is good, but something's missing. As much as I think the voice actors in this game are great, CatNap is the one where I'm like, really? I mean, that's a good voice, but is that really it? And I think the reason it's kinda disappointing is for two reasons. One, the rasp in his voice kinda sounds ugly and not in the same way as the prototype where it's supposed to sound ugly since he's using a bunch of different voices. I mean that in the way that it's just not that nice to listen to. And two, CatNap speaking at all feels wrong. I get he has 2 lines of dialogue in total, and no, I'm not kidding, the random ass smiling critters in Huggy's conditioning room has just as much dialogue as CatNap does. Those 2 lines are also integral to the story, but it still feels wrong. I think it's because it contrasts so heavily with how silent he is throughout the entire game. You know what, as I'm writing this, I think that's the entire point of his one line most people will hear playing the game, so you know what, yeah, he's even more perfect than I thought. CatNap's voice is a 10 out of 10. Now let's move on to where he exceeds everyone else. I mean, yeah, let's be honest, he's the scariest character out of the entire game. He's a perfect mix between psychological and monster horror. Psychological in the sense that you know there's something incredibly wrong with him, and he's also always in the corner of your eye, and when you try to get a better look at him, he just goes away. I remember literally jumping at this part of the game. Tell me that's not the creepiest shit you've ever seen in mascot horror. He shows up to stare at you right after Ollie tells us to run, and he goes away when we look in his direction, whether or not you noticed him. Also, I feel like he knew who Ollie was, so he's using the prototype's manipulation to his advantage, and that's fucking terrifying. He also excels in the monster part because, well, he's a monster. He's been shown to be very strong, and yet the scariest thing about him in the physical department is his poppy gas. He has the ability to spew out as much red gas as he wants. That's one thing the prototype did right with the red gas, but the part that CatNap understood was what it actually does. The red gas makes you hallucinate terrifying stuff. Granted, I've made my thoughts on the prototype's characterization in Chapter 5 really clear in my review for it. He may be getting a red bodily fluid out of people, but when he speaks, mine looks a little bit more white. Yeah. But yeah, I still think CatNap handled the red gas way better, and that's before even getting into what he does with it in the final boss fight. Nightmare CatNap is absolutely terrifying. It takes what about his design was already creepy and turns it up to 11. His big ass smile now looks wrong instead of just looking creepy. His eye sockets got bigger, but his actual eyes stayed the same size, and that skeleton sticking out becomes all the more visible. But the scariest part of his design is the corpse pressing against the inside of his body. Trust me, it's as disturbing as it sounds. In theory, this design sounds like it cares more about the monster part of him, but in execution, we know that behind the illusion is a much bigger, hungrier cat that has been stalking us throughout our entire journey through Playcare, and that's terrifying. When Chapter 3 started its marketing, I thought CatNap was going to be this big, thick-ass cat that screams, but only one of those descriptions ended up being correct. He's big, but he ended up being skinny as hell and incredibly quiet. Honestly, skinny and silent is so much scarier than buff and loud. There's this sense of danger that keeps building up because you don't know when he's about to attack. The devs knew this, so when you thought you were fine, he finally attacks. single-handedly the scariest moment in the entire game. Just perfect. So yeah, CatNap is the best villain when it comes to horror, and now it's time to get into his dark backstory. CatNap wouldn't have meant as much if he didn't have a story behind him. Huggy Wuggy didn't even crack my top 5 favorite characters until chapter 5 gave him such an emotionally impactful story, but don't think for a second that it comes close to Theodore's here. So it all started with the creation of Playcare because, you know, it's chapter 3. In Elliot Ludwig's own words,
our very own on-site orphanage.
Playcare was created to give kids without a family or home a place to stay until someone or a couple of someones decides that that kid's now theirs. Theodore Gramble was one of those kids. This was a great publicity stunt from the company. Not only did they sell toys that gave kids with loving parents all the joy in the world, but they also gave kids without parents a great place they could stay, right? Well, under that nice little bow the company gave it, there was a lot of shady shit going on in this supposedly peaceful orphanage. On the surface level, there are already red flags, out of which our gold Rich brought up in one of the tapes.
I mean, don't you think these kids deserve some real sunlight instead of floodlights and painted skies? Hell, we're not even allowed to talk to these kids.
So not only are they not getting real sunlight, but they're also not able to get much interaction with adults through the employees. Isn't that crazy? Imagine you work at an orphanage and no matter how peaceful and nice you are towards the kids, you can't talk to them. What if a kid gets lost? You know where they have to go and where it is. You've definitely been at these places hundreds of times before. That information could be really useful to help a lost child, but you can't. The kid's just gonna have to find his way by himself. But below the surface, built with a purpose. God, that's such an overrated song. Some seriously dark shit is going on. The real purpose of this orphanage is to kidnap kids without homes and experiment on them. The reason they went with an orphanage is because they could do it while looking amazing in the public eye. But let's just forget that for now. Let's go over Theodore Gramble's time in Playcare and why he was so special. So there's this boy named Ollie. He's never supposed to leave his place in the labs, but one day he did. Something happened to Theo and he couldn't just let him die. So he rushes to get help. Thankfully, no one spotted Ollie, or at least they tried to deny it. Ollie was sent back to the labs and Theo was saved. So if you couldn't already tell, Theodore was one of, if not the only kid who knew about the prototype, and that's not a good thing for the company. So what they did is take Theo and turn him into CatNap. Yep, they punished the kid for having functioning eyes, something we've already known the company likes to do with their own employees. We got to see CatNap get conditioned in the marketing for chapter 5, which adds a whole new layer to his already stacked story. We got to see how violent he got towards the staff, which seems to be a reoccurring issue with all the toys in the lab. But finally, after 3 years of being in Playcare, he starts behaving and acts normal. But that attitude only applies towards the kids of Playcare. Yeah, deep down he still sees the prototype as his god and the company, and by extension the employees who work here, as the devil. So days go by, the prototype had convinced basically everyone to participate in the Hour of Joy, so CatNap kills everyone on August 8th, 11 a.m. along with Huggy Wuggy, Kissy Missy, Mommy Longlegs, the Smiling Critters, the Nightmare Critters, Boxy Boo, Pianosaurus, probably Dowie, and so many others. Now, it's over. Every employee and visitor is dead except for Dr. Harley Sawyer, but that's a different story. People are also suspecting that Leaf Pierre isn't actually dead, but also a different story. Now, CatNap has no target for another 10 years except for the other Smiling Critters, and no, not the little ones. I mean the big ones. But why was he not fond of them? Because they don't like the prototype. They think he's a bad guy and Theo just can't handle it. So what does he do? He kills them. Hoppy Hopscotch? Gone. Bubba Boba Fett? Gone. Piggy Piggy? Gone. Kickin' Chicken? Gone. Crafty Corn? Gone. Bobby Bear Hug? Gone. Pianosaurus? Oh wait, he's not a smiling critter. Although by the time we arrive, Dog Day is still alive but not in a good state. He's alone, depressed, chained up, and chopped in half, but that's not even his biggest concern. He's concerned about us being here. as this place is too dangerous, so we need to leave so that way we can live. Unfortunately though, the most uncomfortable scene in Poppy Playtime happens.
No! Leave me! Please! Just go! Run!
The fact that millions of kids around the world watch this shit is so cool. I just love that fact. They thought they were in for an innocent but scary game. They were not. Okay, back on topic, the fact that we had to witness this shit is so horrifying. It would be one thing if the game told us this is what happens to heretics, but showing it to us is a whole other thing. CatNap's unhealthy love and loyalty for the prototype makes him feel like there's something that went incredibly wrong with his life before watching a woman wearing rainbow colors on a screen acting like she's mentally disabled. It feels like he was treated especially bad in his time as an orphan in play care. So bad that this thing is the only person he feels a connection with, and knowing how the chapter ended, it feels like the prototype was taking advantage of Theo's depressing life. Wow, even I didn't expect to write this shit when first writing the script. I thought CatNap's story was just really fucking grim, not straight up depressing. Imagine the only person you feel a connection to actually turned out to be a big asshole and was only using you to get stronger when you finally fell. Of course, he did form an alliance with the Smiley Critters, but that was only out of fear because it was either they work with him or death. No one else liked him, and he never liked anyone else. In fact, he gave us so many chances to leave and we just fucking wouldn't. I'm not gonna say that he's secretly a good guy and just that no one showed him enough love. No, Poppy Playtime doesn't play around with that shit. In fact, I'm getting more confident that chapter 6 will end with the prototype killing us, but that's a topic for another day. All I'm trying to say is that it makes Ollie look even worse than he already does. A well-executed story turns a horror mascot from a walking scare machine into an actual character. To say CatNap's story was well executed would be an understatement. Layers and layers and layers and layers, and some of them probably weren't even intentional. That's how you know we have good writers on our hands. Now it's time for the final part of the 50th CatNap Glaze video this week.
He's so cool.
Come on, is this entrance to his boss fight not the coolest shit you've ever seen? Alright, so time to power up Playcare once again.
Holy
Nope, not
shit,
today.
get away from me, you stupid prototype fanboy.
What'd you fucking call me? Okay, that's it. The way he just looks at us walking slowly while spewing out a shit ton of that red gas is pure aura. CatNap baby. No, I can focus. Don't make the same joke again. Okay, I think I'm good. CatNap is incredibly cool. There's nothing more to that. Even in the cartoon, he's aura farming by just standing there and staring at his friends. He's always just staring at you. He's not even trying to look cool, he just is. He also broke the standard for the game by being the first one to have an actual boss fight. Not another chase scene, but an actual boss fight, and it's amazing. When the game first came out, it was horribly explained, but later patches made it more clear on what to do, and now everyone knows what to do, and it's incredibly fun to do so. Not only that, but it's also a tense boss fight, especially if you're deciding not to use the flare hand. You constantly have to put batteries in to make sure CatNap won't get you. That on its own would be fine, but the game made sure it at least prepared you for something. So you have to use the purple hand to get to one of the battery holes. You can use the flare hand to reveal fake CatNaps. You have to close that vent whenever it opens up. And when the green electrical charge is finally done, you have to use the green hand to conduct it. And use it against CatNap so you can give him 3rd-degree burns as a result of doing this in a room filled with the red gas. So that way the prototype can kill him once and for all, and the rest is history. Why the fuck does Google Docs recognize this as a word? I literally made that up as a reference to chapter 4. It probably is a real word and I'm just not gonna look it up. His design is also just really good. He's got those wide eyes and drop chins. Holy fuck, that was so perfectly timed. I also just really like the color purple, especially when it's mixed in with red. He's also just so well animated, which means nothing for this game, especially when some animations are straight up too impressive, but I had to acknowledge when the animation's good. I think his animation peaks during his boss fight. There's obviously his perfect entrance and the nightmare form, but we also also have his iconic death scene. I can't imagine how much Mob must have overworked their animators to animate this scene, but rendering? Oh boy, that's a whole other story. Rendering this must have been a bigger pain in the ass than living through the Hour of Joy. Filling up this big ass space with red gas, cramming as much little green electricity into the small space as possible, and burning all of CatNap's fur off mixed in with the green electricity must have been a nightmare to render. Speaking of that, apparently the injury Theo went through was getting shocked by a green hand, so that's a crazy full circle moment. Also, you can see the green hand on him as the prototype takes his dead body. And one last thing, he just looked so fucking cool in both the Chapter 3 ARG and the Chapter 5 ARG. In the Chapter 3 ARG, there's this shot of him looking directly at the camera in the bed area in Welcome Home surrounded by total darkness, and that's just the coolest shit ever. He also had the hypest moments in all of the marketing for the chapter, which, yeah, no shit, but holy shit, it's still so cool. His presence in every single trailer elevated them, and he doesn't even say a single fucking word. But the best shot by far has to go to the final one for the final trailer.
All that awaits you are incomprehensible horrors. Smiling mouths full of teeth and meat and plastic. This world is theirs now. Welcome home.
Absolute cinema.
Every single trailer for Chapter 3 was amazing, especially the last one, but the final shot solidified that this chapter was gonna be generational. The fact that they have the same children from the very first teaser making the same noises but distorted while this big ass purple cat walks through the red smoke with some dude monologuing in the background is just everything. I would do anything to re-experience the hype for Chapter 3. Chapter 6 is the only chapter they can make to recreate the hype. Just please do not rely on the goodwill from Chapter 3. I feel like they did that way too much in Chapter 5's marketing, so they shouldn't do it again in Chapter 6. So basically what I'm trying to say is CatNap brings hype wherever he goes. If we get a Chapter 7 just so Chapter 6 can end on CatNap's return, I would be so excited. I want Poppy Playtime to end on Chapter 6, but if it ends with CatNap's return, I wouldn't mind a Chapter 7. In conclusion, Pianosaurus is the best character in Poppy Playtime.